All right, so it is Wednesday, September 28th, and this is Aquaponics hurricane prep. We're waiting on Hurricane Ian to come in, probably early tomorrow morning. And as you can see, my aquaponics system is now empty. Just did an update on Labor Day, and the system was full. And so I've spent basically the last almost 5 days prepping the system for a hurricane, unfortunately. And I've just about got everything as ready as it's gonna be. So I figured I'd do a update here. This is pretty sad, but it's what I have to do if I want the system to remain intact through a hurricane. So we'll see how everything goes. I'm gonna have to take these rafts out, but I figured I'd do a video before I remove them. But you can see the shade cloth has been taken down. One thing I haven't done yet is take the covers down off the tanks, but I will have to do that. The seedling table I'm going to keep in place, but I put a standpipe in here, so I'm going to let this just go ahead and fill with water. So once that's full, that's not going to go anywhere rather than go through the process of taking the whole thing down. But the concern with the plants is not only will the plants get damaged, but the rafts will fly too. And with the cost and then effort to just go through and paint all those and everything, everything just has to come out rather than risk all the damage. So the rafts are going to have to come out here as soon as I make this video. Gone through and just reinforced as much as I can. So with the sump, I already had this in place, but there's anchors in the ground and then ratchet straps over them, because the concern being if for some reason the power shut off, the water drained out and then the pumps kicked back on, the sump could actually empty and then raise out of the ground with the ground being saturated. If the power does go off, I'll just immediately shut the pumps down. The fish can run without the pumps going, but they do have to have air 24/7 due to the sheer fish density. This first tank here has 71 or so tilapia at an average of about 3 pounds a piece. So there's probably about 200 pounds of fish in an 800-gallon tank. So they can't run without air for any length of time at all. My swirl separator, I've got a bungee here on the top, so I have the option of either removing the lid or anchoring it down, or that's gonna fly. My return pipes here have a pipe strapped down and nailed onto the sump there so that that won't go anywhere. And then just got some cutout cinder blocks here, further bracing that pipe. Just trying to anchor down as much as possible. My biofilter here, got this hose here kind of tied down as much as I can. Concern might be having this fitting set here potentially break. And if that happens, I install the extra ball valve right here in case I needed to just shut that off. I'm gonna have to take off this little piece of ABS sheet right here so that that doesn't fly. Gonna have to take the makeshift cover off of that swirl separator rather than bother anchoring that down. Put some bungees from my trellis up to this one pole, because these two back poles are concreted in the ground, whereas the trellis is not. So there is a concern that this trellis could face some damage. I definitely had to take off all the plants there so that nothing happens to that. So like I said, I still have to take the covers off of my fish tank, because those guys could get ripped and blow. Built this whole house around my pumps and bead filter recently and kind of reinforced that to just shelter the pumps as much as I can. If I really had to, I could completely remove the pumps since I'm going to run on my blower anyway, but I'll keep those going as long as I possibly can. The other concern is this whole thing where my pump sit could potentially flood out. So we did kind of make this whole trench that goes along, because this is kind of the natural flow of water from the back of the property to the front. And as you can see, it's already working pretty nicely. Don't even have hurricane force rain yet. And you can see that we've got a ton of water. Ground's already pretty well saturated, but we've got a nice flow of water going there. We got pretty smart when we first got this property and put a drain from our back field with a 3-inch to 4-inch pipe, because this field that we have back there does flood pretty significantly. So this trench, I really hope, helps us out and divert water away from my system here. So reinforce this pump house as much as possible. This was just kind of built and sitting, so I put these 4-foot rebar stakes on each corner into the ground. Hopefully this side that's kind of open will be okay, but I do need to have access to get into the pumps and kind of unplug everything as needed. Looks a little sketchy, but reinforced my blower house with a lot of concrete block. This is the important part, that I do have to keep going 24/7 so that my fish have air. That's the major important part. And then to keep them having air, I built this crazy looking structure to house a generator. So I put together 2 55-gallon drums, filled those up with water. So when those are full, those are gonna be over 400 pounds a piece, so they won't go anywhere. Have this plastic pallet that the generator is gonna sit on, so that'll be up and out of the water. Have this 4x8 fiberglass tank to function as a roof. And then these other fiberglass tanks that are pretty heavy. This one that I can kind of slide right in front of it once the generator's in place. And then up in here, I have these 27-gallon Rubbermaid totes, and once those are filled with water, those will be 200 pounds. So those aren't gonna go anywhere. And then I've got a ABS sheet with a 55-gallon drum on the back. So that'll be pretty sheltered to keep the generator out of water and covered. So I've got my pump house there. See if I can realistically run a pump on a generator, which I won't have to, but the big important deal is keeping my fish with air, and then stick the generator in here. So I had to take all the plants out. I saved what I could and put the plants on my porch or in my Florida room, anything that I could save, and then took the seedlings out. Those are in the Florida room as well. And then got the generator hookup going there. So fingers crossed. Been working on this whole reinforcement for the last several days. Been going about 6 hours in the rain today. We've got these big 80-foot pine trees that always kind of scare me, you know, power line in between them, chicken coop over there. These bananas are gonna get pretty shredded. Starting to fog up my lens a little bit here, but I'm just going to show you the getup that I have on the porch, where I've taken out the seedlings and plants that I'm going to try and salvage here. So we'll see how they do in here. It'll be at least a little bit more sheltered, but when we get into frost and hurricanes, this is what my porch and Florida room look like. So I mean, we'll still get hurricane force winds coming through here, but I figured this would be at least give some of my plants a chance. I've got these crazy pandan plants. These will be my comeback seedlings that I had to pull out, so I may stick these guys in the Florida room. And then got my other set over here. And then of course had to pull out my all of my what I call nursery plants. So that's all empty over there. And then all of that stuff, because a lot of that is so tall. I got my Florida room all full of my what I call nursery plants. So wish me luck.